Well, I'm looking forward to finishing this 3-part series. Thank you for coming and being with us. We've been talking about the life of Jacob. And to give you a quick summary of what's gone on, this guy's one of the 3 patriarchs of the Jewish and Christian faith. He lied and stole and cheated his way into receiving a blessing and a birthright that belonged to his brother, but he took it. And because of that, his brother pretty casually decided, I'm going to cap this guy. And he had to run for his life. Ended up with nothing. And so he ends up in the desert, and a brother who wants to kill him, and nothing to his name, but God shows up, gives him more than he could ever ask for. He goes forward, ends up getting married to a beautiful woman after being tricked into marrying her much less beautiful sister. That was last week's problem, so if you want to know more about that, you can listen to last week's message, not today's problem. And then he ends up prospering greatly. He leaves his home. It's been 20 years since God showed up to him in the desert, and God says, hey, remember that brother who wants to kill you? Let's go back. Let's go back home. And so Jacob says, yes, Lord, and he has plenty of herds, and he has servants and people in his company, and he begins moving them back, and he gets close, and he says, let's send some messengers ahead of us to let my brother know that I'm coming. So the messengers come back, and that's where we're picking up in Genesis chapter 32, starting in verse 6. It says, the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brother Esau. That's good. And he's coming to meet you. Also good. And there are 400 men with him. That's bad. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him, the flocks and the herds and the camels, into 2 camps, thinking, if Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. So, the thing we're going to talk about first this morning is, how do you respond to fear? You see, we all have fears. I, for one, am scared of heights. This right now is the highest I've been in years. It's terrifying. Literally, some of you have like trucks that are so high I won't get in them. Don't even ask. I'll come up with weird excuses. You'll be like, Brian, want to ride in my car? I'm like, sorry, don't know how to ride. I haven't learned that. All right. But it's not my fault. You see, it's my dad's fault. It's his fault, 100%. You don't believe me? Okay, let me convince you. Challenge accepted. So, one time, like most of you, I was 5 years old. And whenever I was 5 years old, I went to this magical place called Disney World. Has anyone ever been to Disney World? Okay, one of our youth leaders is like going to Disney World relatively soon, and I think every other week she tells me, we're going to Disney World. There's this ride, it's like a Dumbo ride, and you get in an elephant that in no way would fly, even with that weird ear proportion. And the ride rises up slightly and comes back down. It's gentle, it's nice. I was having a good time. My 5-year-old self riding an elephant. My dad's next to me, and all of a sudden, my dad goes, oh no! And I go, what father who I trust and know will protect me? And he goes, the bolts are falling out. My mom has a home video of me wailing, crying on Dumbo because I think I'm gonna die while my dad laughs next to me. This is not a joke, this is real life. Monster. You see, fear is taking a portion of a truth and projecting a negative outcome through it. We can also say that fear is taking a portion of a truth and assuming the rest of the truth to be extremely negative. It's an unknown that we believe to be negatively impactful on our life. And see, in my situation, my truth was that I had a person I trusted who was lying straight to my face. It's abuse. I just now have the courage to come forward with this story. But there was some reason for my fear, because there was someone I trusted telling me that there's a reason to be scared. Do you know sometimes God will ask you to go into something that's scary, and it's not that you're delusional or crazy, there's actually a good reason to be scared, but God's going to ask you to be brave anyways? Sometimes there's a good reason you should be worried, but God's going to ask you to step into it anyways. And that's exactly what's happening with Jacob. There's a good reason to be scared. His brother, who he knew his whole life, eventually was like, hey, I'm going to murder you. And then God was like, hey, remember that guy? Let's go back there. There's a good reason to be scared. And then the person who his last contact with him was the guy saying, I'm going to kill you, is approaching him with a small army. It's reasonable. And sometimes God will ask us to do unreasonable things. Things that will kind of defy logic, where you go, God, I know you're telling me to do something, but if I do that, it could have a negative outcome. But I want to tell you right now, when God tells you to do something, it's the only blessed option you have. Even if it defies logic. Like the simplest things, like forgiveness setting you free, that kind of defies logic, but it works. For giving your money and tithing actually increases your money, defies logic, but it works. Giving up control of your life perfects the outcome of your life, also seems crazy, but it works. Because God's way is the only blessed option we have. I would say it this way, our plans are at best strategized hope for our life, but God's plans are guaranteed blessing and guaranteed victory. We can fail. That's not like a crazy statement. I'm not like, we can mess up, and people are like, what? You're like, I did on the way to work this morning. You're not at work, you're at church. Way to church this morning. Let's try that again, right? But God can't. But for some reason, we confuse deity with humanity, and we expect God to act like a man who can let us down, but he's not a man, he's God. He can't fail, and he can't let you down. It's not in his character, it's not in his skill set. He doesn't have the ability. How nice is it to know that he doesn't have the ability to let you down? It's not in the cards. His option for your life is perfect. Every time. So fear is inevitable. No matter who you are, you're going to be afraid of something. At some point, it's human, it's natural. It's going to happen. You can't control what's going to happen in your life. But you can always control how you respond. So what we're really looking is for how we respond to fear. Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That verse alone should give you some courage, knowing that it's not you who carries you through a battle. It's God who hands you victory when you wait on him. That alone should answer the question of how do you respond to fear? You actually don't respond to fear. You respond to God, and he takes care of fear. But that verse didn't exist in the middle of Jacob's problem. The Bible hadn't been written yet. He was the first few chapters of the Bible. So we're going to look at his response. In verse 9 of chapter 32, it says, and Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. Real quick, there's a lot there. God told him that good things would happen to him, but it looks like a bad outcome is on the horizon. Sometimes God tells you to do something and it's for a blessing, but as soon as you start, you're worried it's not going to work out that way. Let me remind you, he cannot fail. Verse 10, I am not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers and the children. But God, you said, I will surely do you good, and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. This is one of the few good things that Jacob does in his lifetime. He asks God for deliverance instead of finding a way to cheat himself out of the problem. And there's something I really want to point out. I want to point out in verse 11, he was honest with his fear. He didn't pray a prayer that sounded like, God, it looks like I'm going to be murdered by a small army, but I'm not even kind of worried because I trust you completely. That's not how that went. That when, God, I know you've only done good to me, but right now I'm scared it's not going to work out that way. And I need your help. Why is it so hard for us to be honest with our pain in front of God? Why is it so hard to pray a prayer that sounds like, God, I'm breaking and I want to do the wrong thing? Why is it difficult and intimidating? Did you know that nothing has ever occurred to God? That God has never suddenly realized anything. He already knew. Theologically, we call this the omniscience of God. Omni meaning all, science meaning the understanding of how things operate and work. We're going to drop that down to knowledge because we're saying that God has all knowledge, all understanding. It is complete in its entirety. He understands everything you think. He knows your fears before you have them. He knows your doubts before they happen. He is not surprised. He has a complete understanding. He's omniscient. That means if David came up to pray because his marriage was struggling, God doesn't go, oh myself. He's got to be really weird if he said, anyways, oh myself. I had no idea he was struggling like that. I'm disappointed. We treat God like he would act that way because we keep treating him like he's a human, but he's not a human, he's God. There's a difference between humanity and deity. He's God, he's supreme over all. So when you walk up and you're able to get honest, when you're able to get honest with your hurt, your fear, and your pain, and what's going on in your soul, God goes, finally I can get involved. You're finally asking me to come in. Because some people get offended at the idea that God knows everything because we say, well, if God knows all of my fear, why doesn't he just fix it? It's not cool. We talked about this last week a little bit, but God's a gentleman and he's not going to force his way into your life. He'll never force you to accept what you need. He'll wait until you're willing to. That's why when he knows about your hurt, he doesn't go, I'm just going to jump in. He goes, please let me in. And that's what's so great about what Jacob's doing here. He's going, God, I'm terrified in every way. Please work this out for good. If you really understand this, and you really know that God already knows all of your mistakes, you're going to feel so free. It's going to change the way you enter here every Sunday. It's going to change your worship experiences because you're going to realize you don't have to fake that you're happy, you can be broken, and God's like, thank you for letting me heal you. Being vulnerable with God is the only way you're ever going to find peace in chaos. If you want a solution, if you want to be the solution to your problems, then you never need to be vulnerable, and you never need to invite God, and you don't. You just don't. You can be a solution. It might not be a good one, but you can do it. But if you want a perfect solution, it's guaranteed to work. Your only option is to let God in on your problems and your pain. It's the only option we have. Real quick, I want to squeeze this in. I didn't say it first service, but I really want to say it. Verse 12 that we read in chapter 32 says this. But God, you said, I will surely do you good and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which will not be numbered for multitude. Do you think Jacob's reminding God of what he'd do because it seems like God forgot? Do you think we come in here and we sing worship songs that you're good, you're good, whoa, because God might have forgot that he's good and he just needs to be reminded? Not a chance. Not a chance. See, what Jacob's doing is he's reminding his body of what his soul already knows. When we sing to God and we bring God worship, we're not reminding God that he's good, that he's our healer, that he's going to take care of us. What we're doing is we're reminding our flesh what our soul knows. It's so important. It's so important. Because we don't remind God of who he is. We remind ourselves that he still is. And that can change everything. How do you respond to fear? You don't need to respond to fear. You need to respond to God, and he'll crush your fears. The second thing I want to talk about today is are you wrestling with God? Jumping in verse 22, it says, that same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children. This man needs 2 12-passenger vans. And he crossed the ford of the Yabok and took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. And when the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Weird how a man can do that with one touch. And then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And then he said, Jacob. And he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with man and have prevailed. And then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. And then the sun rose on him as he passed through Peniel, limping because of his hip. So, on that conversation of us mistaking deity for humanity, we know this is not a man, but this is God that is wrestling with Jacob, or an angel. But he didn't take time to realize that or think about that. He just started wrestling and fighting and demanding a blessing. So let me ask you this question. Do you really think the God of the universe who created everything one evening was looking down on Jacob and was like, the guy's a piece of trash, I'm going to go fight him? Not one time. I don't think that one time. Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you think God showed up and was like, I'm going to fight this guy, and then God lost that fight? I don't think so. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. So there has to be another reason he's there. You know, every time we see God or an angel show up, it is almost always for the purpose of encouragement and blessing, not putting someone in their place or putting them down. We have in the book of Joshua, the commander of the armies of the Lord showing up and giving the people encouragement and direction before the Battle of Jericho. In Matthew chapter 1, we have an angel showing up to Joseph to encourage him to make the right decision and put his heart at peace with the birth of Jesus. There's consistency in God's character. And he isn't a human. He never changes. So when God shows up, it's still for the same reasons. But yet, we get afraid of God, and we don't want to get vulnerable and real with God because we think, if I'm real with God, he's going to take away all my fun and be mad at me and put me in my place. God doesn't show up to put you in your place. He shows up to pull you out of the pit. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Because that should change 2 things. One, when we feel God in a room, we shouldn't be scared of him. And second, that when we feel scared in general, we know where to go because we know who can pull us out of it. I believe this story was supposed to go so differently. I really do. I don't think God showed up to pick a fight. I think God showed up to give Jacob soul assurance that, hey, I haven't left you. We're not done. This is going to end well for you. I mean, just think about it. He prays, he asks God for deliverance, and God shows up. Before God can do anything, he immediately starts fighting God and demands the solution to be done his way. It's crazy. Asking God to show up, but never even listening to him. I have an amazing sister, and this one time I was talking to Hannah, and I was just telling her about some stuff I was frustrated about, and Hannah looks at me and Hannah goes, "Are you just venting to me, or do you want my opinion?" What just happened is Hannah called me out and said, "You're not actually asking me my opinion, you're just telling me what you want to do and pretending like I even have a say in it." I think we do that to God all the time. I think we pray and we go, "God, do you think I should?" And then before he could even respond, to do the thing. And we go, "Well, I prayed about it." Praying's not enough, listening's necessary. If you pray to receive something, why wouldn't you wait to receive it? Why would you buy something on Amazon and be like, "It never showed up"? And they're like, "Did you check your doorstep?" And you're like, "Why would I do that?" If you ask to receive from God, you should change your demeanor to be expecting God to deliver. There's a whole message there. Have you ever ordered something and you were excited, so excited that you knew it wouldn't come for like a week, but you checked it every single day to make sure it was on its way? When you ask for something from God, you should be so excited for him to deliver. You should look forward to it every single day. You don't have to wait to be excited till it gets there. You can wait knowing it's on the way with joy. God will not fail you. He will keep you. I think if we're going to live blessed lives, we have to actually start seeking God's wisdom and stop just telling him what we already plan to do. I think that'll change some things. And the unpleasant truth is we are exactly like Jacob. That we ask God for him to move and bless us, and then we don't even kind of wait on him. We just decide to do it our way. I see this example most often in like young adult people praying for a future spouse. They're like, send me a godly man. God, I'm just waiting on my Boaz, God. A godly man. And then like 5 godly men are like, hey, and she's like, one with more muscles and blue eyes. A godly man who looks like a Greek god. Ow. Let's go a little rougher. All the time people say things like, God, help me in my finances. And God goes, have you tried the plan I created for your blessing called tithing? And they're like, I won't do that. Everything God has ever done is for you. It's never to take from you. You see, if you're stingy with anything, it doesn't show trust for anything. But if you actually live life with open hands where you're willing to give to hurting people, God can trust you with as much as he can give you. Everything is for your blessing. If we actually want to invite him into our situations, we actually have to let him do the job. But instead what happens is we go, God, come into my life and help me with this problem my way, exactly how I want it, when I want it, without pain or any need for faith. And if it requires any discomfort from me, I'm going to fight you on it. I'm going to fight you on it because I want it my way. I just want you to do it my way, God. I don't actually want a relationship with you. I just want to use your deity and your power to make my life better for me. Did you know your relationship with God is actually not a democracy? And you have free will. You can do whatever you want. Literally whatever you want. But it's not a democracy. There is no compromise. And that's not cruel. That's not a controlling, forceful God saying, my way or nothing else. That's a God who's perfect, saying, I will only give you the best and I won't compromise with you because I'm not willing to do anything less than the best for your life. You see, our God's perfect. It's not just in his nature, it is his nature. It's the only thing he can do. You can't separate him from perfection. That's why he can't compromise with you. He can either let you have it his way, or you can let him do a work in your life and you can have it perfect. That's your only chance. That's it. And that's not cruel. That's why God's willing to wrestle with you. Because the first time you go, God, no, I want it my way, that wrestling inside you is God going, I'm not willing to give up on the best for you. I'm not willing to let you hurt yourself yet. Please don't do that. Please let me have control. Please don't hurt yourself. Please. That's why God's willing to wrestle with you. Because he's willing to fight for you. Even if it means fighting you. I'm going to invite the band back up as we get ready to conclude. We all wrestle with God. It's extremely human. It's normal. It's nothing actually to be ashamed of. But if you're aware of it, the battle can end in your benefit. You see, Jacob wrestled with God so long that eventually the day broke and the sun rose, and God was the one who said, like, okay, let me go. The day's up. Because Jacob had things he had to get to. He had a destiny that was coming. He had to meet his brother. His time was up for that moment. And let me tell you, God will fight with you every second until the moment's up. And what Jacob ended up with was a blessing that was no chance as good as what could have been, and a hit that never worked right for the rest of his life because he was determined to have it his way. It's the last thing I want for my life. It's the last thing I want for your life, that we fight so long we get it our way. The worst thing that can happen to you is you getting what you want. You're not here today by accident. I want you to know that. I want you to know the wrestling that's going on in your soul right now is actually God saying, please let me have control. Please let me give you the best. The lump in your throat is the Spirit of God going, please let me give you the best you could ever receive. You don't want to win this battle.